So today, we're going to cover one question that gets asked a lot of the time, whether it be on live shows, on Facebook, anywhere. What is the best regulated device on a budget? Now, not everyone can afford the $100, $200, $300, $400 device. Not everyone's loaded. And in a world where people start GoFundMe pages to pay for their brand new car, or in a world where you can't afford your utility bill, and rather than get a job, you say, fuck it, I'll start a Patreon account. We're going to primarily focus on devices that are budget friendly. Now, these devices range anywhere from $30 up to $70. And I tried to get the cheapest prices possible. I did search online. I just got some random websites in the description. No affiliate links, just random websites. And once again, I try to find the best price possible. But if you guys like, you could do a search online and try to find an even better price. But for the most part, these are devices that I use and I continue to use even after the review. With all these devices I have on my shelf, these are the devices that I find to be the most affordable and the most reliable. And for the most part, a lot of you will agree with me. Some may disagree, but for the most part, there's some pretty popular devices, and they're the ones that I think are going to be the best bang for your buck. So first up, in no particular order, is going to be the Asmodus Minikin Reborn. Now, this is a 168-watt device that goes for around $69, depending on where you shop. And this device has been with me ever since I reviewed it. I've used it many times. I've taken it to vape expos. I've taken it out of the house. I've dropped it on the ground. I use it all the time, and I continue to use it. Just something about this mod, it has all the features that I want, and it works well. It performs well, and it seems to have no ramp-up time whatsoever. Now, a few things that I look for in devices are devices that will look good with atomizers up to 24 or 25 millimeters. I like a screen that's bright and that I can read outdoors. I like a nice solid button. I like a really tight battery door. Not really too concerned about the micro USB port because I really don't charge over USB. And firmware updates, even though I always give a device a pro for having firmware updates, honestly, I never update my devices. Unless there's a feature or if there's a update to fix an issue, I really don't see a need to update my devices. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So honestly, I've never updated any of these devices, but the option is there. What I like about the Reborn is, once again, it does look good with atomizers up to 25 millimeters, so we'll screw the Kennedy down. And a majority of my atomizers that I use are either 24 or 25, so looks good on top of there with no gaps. The firing switch on here, very comfortable to use, never had any issues with it, very clicky and responsive. What I liked most was the screen, a very bright screen, a large font, easy to read. Now, some people may not like the fact that it is a touch screen. You do have to swipe your finger down, hit the button, and adjust it. But once you use it for a day or two, you kind of get used to it. Now, the Minikin Boost, which goes for around $54, is kind of the same device. It has a smaller screen, but it gives you the physical wattage adjustment buttons on the side. So if you're not a fan of the touchscreen, a Boost is the option, and it's a little bit cheaper. Navigating the menu, very simple. I mainly use my devices in wattage mode 99% of the time. And as I said, it felt pretty accurate. It ramps up really quick, and it just never gave me any issues. The battery door in here, I love the battery door on this style device because even though we have magnets, if I slide this off, you'll see that we have two large magnets on the back. What really holds the door on is this really heavy steel door, like the friction. So if it ever got loose on you, all you would need to do is just give it a squeeze. It would tighten the door back up. And I never once had to squeeze it to tighten it back up, but this door, for as long as I've been using it, is still just as tight as day one. There's no rattle on here. The finish, I'm so surprised the finish actually still looks this good for as long as I used it. And you could see that orange color. And of course, another reason I really like this mod is because it comes in orange. But all around, this is probably one of my favorite mods from Asmodus. Now, next up is going to be the Asmodus Minikin version 2. Now, the one I'm showing you here is actually the Kodama version, and the difference between the $64 one and this $200 one is going to be the stabilized wood. For the most part, they're the same mod. The only difference is a stab wood. But once again, same deal here with the touch screen. Nice bright screen. I love the button on here. 25 millimeters look good on top. The battery door was always nice and tight, and it just felt really accurate. It had 0 ramp up time, and it performed really good in wattage mode. Like I said, I never really used temp mode, and I always feel that if you're really that diehard about temp control, invest in a DNA mod. You know, mods like this, they do work well in temp mode, don't get me wrong, but if you're really serious about temp mode, I always recommend getting a DNA device. But for regulated wattage mode, the Minikin series usually were a really, really good buy. Now, jumping away from the Asmodus Minikins, next up is going to be the Voopoo Drag. A lot of people have heard of this mod. It's a very simple mod, kind of boring, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And it's just so easy to operate. It's built very well. It's solid. It's not the prettiest looking thing, but for being only $46 and doing 167 watts, this thing just delivers. You know, it performs really well. Atomizers on the top, I think it looks good with 25. I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure it did. Let's screw down to Kennedy and just have a look, because the majority of the users out there nowadays are going to use at least 24 millimeters, but 25, you can see there we have a little bit of overhang, but 24 will probably look perfect on top of here. But the 510 connection on the drag is beautiful. It's a screw down stainless steel 510 connection, as you can see there. And the screen on this one also very simple, you know, nice and bright, easy to read. It kind of reminds me of the old school like screens like on the IPV and whatnot. Just very simple to operate. And this mod feels solid, really heavy in the hands. You got your micro USB port. The battery door on here never gave me any issues. Pop this off. Dual 18650s, nice tight magnets, and this is a really popular mod in the community. Reason being is because it's simple, it works, and it only costs around under 50 bucks. Now, next up is going to be the Aspire Speeder. This is a dual 18650 200 watt device that goes for around $49. And I really don't use Aspire products all that much. I don't know, just something about Aspire products never really caught my attention. But this speeder mod, when I got it, it's just a really comfortable device. And I just love the way it felt in the hands with the curvatures, kind of rounded or oval shaped. 25 millimeters, of course, looks good on top. It has that auto rotate screen, which I always thought was kind of cool, where you flip it around and you can see the screen rotates. The screen, once again, nice and bright, really easy to read. In wattage mode, I never had any problems with it. The firing switch on the side right here, it's got a nice tight kind of lever style switch. And dual 18650 battery door. The batteries are nice and tight in here. And just something about it, it's small, and it just felt really, really good in the hands. I would usually use this device mainly with a sub-ohm tank. I wouldn't primarily use it with RDAs, but with the sub-ohm tank, this thing would be awesome. Running it at around 100 watts, I get some really good battery life. And like I said, I really don't do Aspire stuff, but something about the speeder just really caught my attention, and I continue to use this one. Next up is going to be the OBS Bat. Now, this really caught my attention when I first got it, because this is OBS's very first device, and usually a company, when they first make a device, it's a fail, because, you know, it's their first device, and they have to kind of learn their lesson and find out what's good and what's not before they actually start making good devices. But OBS actually nailed it on the head with their first device. This thing just feels solid in the hands. The minute you pull it out of the box, put batteries in it, it actually feels like a high-quality device. $69, I found to be the lowest price tag, doing 218 watts. What I liked about this, centered 510, so all my atomizers line up nice and straight. 25 millimeters, as you can see there. We actually have a little bit more room for something a little bit larger. The screen on it, you know, the font was a little small, but it's a nice bright screen. I'm a huge fan of the LED lights. I know a lot of people don't like LED lights, but I love having the ability to change the color and the style of the LED lights. Of course, we got your micro USB port if people like to charge and update over USB. The battery door, nice, tight, solid battery door. No issues there. The batteries, you know, everything was nice and solid with this mod. The button is beautiful. They did an awesome job with this button. It just so solid. And some people say, well, it's just a button. You know, who cares what it feels like? But when you're holding them on all day long and you're pressing this button, the way a button feels, how hard you got to press it, all that comes into play because you're pressing it all day long. So this thing was really comfortable, and it just, for being OBS's first device, this thing was really amazing. And the performance, once again, in power mode, performed really well. No complaints whatsoever, so I definitely recommended the OBS Bat. Next up is going to be the Think Vape Ruger mod. Now, this is a 230 watt dual 18650 device that goes for around $48. And this one kind of came out of left field because looking at this mod, it's an ugly looking device. I do not like the way this thing looks. It's hideous. But this mod performed so damn well that I looked past how bad it looked and I continued to use it just because of how well it performs. As you can see here, 25 millimeters once again, sits beautifully on top there. The button, very comfortable, stainless steel button. The screen, it took a little getting used to, this little round cutout, but after a while you kind of get used to it. We have an LED light that actually goes around the screen. You could change the color of the LED light, you could turn it on, turn it off, and you got this little joystick down here. So you can push up, down, left, right, or you can push down in the center. And navigating it, you know, it took a little getting used to, but I actually really like this little nipple right there. We got the micro USB port at the bottom as always. The battery door, got a nice kind of leather feeling battery door, and I had no issues with the door getting loose on me. All around, this thing performed really, really well. Like, it ramped up instantly, no matter what I put on top of here. If I have an RDA with a really low build, set it to 120 watts, this thing would just hit 120 immediately. And in power mode, it was an amazing mod. So once again, it may be ugly as hell, but performance-wise, the Ruger was pretty damn awesome. Next up, we have the Joytech Espion. And what this mod did was it kind of proved to people that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get a good-looking device that has a really good-looking screen. The screen on this Espion is beautiful. For being only $52, it's a 200 watt device, dual 18650, and this device actually looks good. The all black version looks awesome, and I love the way they have the stainless steel button that kind of sticks out from the color of the mod. I think on the black one, it was an all black device with a stainless steel button, and even though it's made of zinc alloy, it just felt really good in the hands. It felt like stainless steel, and it kind of looked almost like stainless steel, even the button right there. Once again, 25 millimeters looks really good on top. I'm very happy that they centered that 510 connection because I think it really looks good. Most importantly, the screen on here was beautiful. You have the ability to adjust the themes in there, adjust the color, and navigating it was pretty easy. The wattage adjustment buttons right here was very nice. We got the addition of the third button, which makes things a little bit easier. You could turn the screen off. And I really enjoy devices that use a 3-button layout. It just makes things much easier. Of course, we got the USB port at the bottom. Dual 18650s with the side or the bottom flip style battery door. I never had any issues with it. And overall, it was a really good looking device that performed really well in power mode. And once again, for being $52 and looking this good and built this well, I was pretty impressed by it. Next up is going to be the DovePo V. Now, this device is a little bit different where it's not a variable wattage device. This is actually a variable voltage device, and it doesn't really have any features to it. And for being a DovePo mod, DovePo used to make some of the worst mods ever created. So when I got this and I started using it, I was blown away by the fact that DovePo made this thing, and also by the fact that it was one of the easiest mods to operate, and it performed so damn well. I just could not believe that DovePo actually put this thing out. This thing runs for around $59. It goes up to 8 volts. And as you can see there, 25 millimeters, once again, looks really good. We got this nice rubber grip along the side that made it very comfortable to hold on to. And on the front, we really don't have much going on. What really nice feature was the on-off button right here. And this actually take a little getting used to. You would think this is kind of cheesy and kind of tacky, but the minute you turn it on and off, it's so quick. And that's what I really liked about it. You pop it on, you could adjust the voltage all the way up to 8 volts. And it was just really super simple. There's an LED light behind the screen right here that lets you know when your battery's low. And that's it. You adjust your voltage, you vape. When you push down the firing switch, it'll let you know your resistance. And just for being a mod that's so simple and built so well for being from DovePo, I was blown away by this thing. I think DovePo did an awesome job on this mod, and I hope to see more mods like this coming from DovePo. I'm all about simplicity, and this is probably one of the simplest mods to use, but this one was a really awesome device, especially if you're using like an RDA or a low resistance build on an RDA, and you need something that had a lot of power with a quick ramp up time. This would be perfect. Not really something I use for sub-ohm tanks, but more for like low ohm builds on RDAs and whatnot. But the DovePo V, awesome, awesome mod. Next up is one of my favorites of all time coming from iJoy. This is the Maxo, 315 watt device that goes for around $35. And you guys may be thinking, who the hell needs 315 watts? I don't need 315 watts, but what I like about this mod, Quad 18650, the battery life on this thing can get you through an entire day vaping at super high wattages, or it can get you through 2 or 3 days vaping at normal wattages. Whenever I would go out somewhere, like an all-day event or a vape expo, and I didn't want to, you know, bring batteries with me and all this other jazz, bringing the Maxo, this thing would last me the entire day, no matter what I put on top of here. The screen, very simple layout, but once again, nice, big, and bright. This is probably one of the easiest mods to navigate. You have power mode, temp mode, and that's pretty much it. You don't have all these crazy settings on the inside. It's a really big device, but it actually is quite comfortable in the hands. But this one for me was all about battery life. That's all I was concerned about. I wasn't really focused on the 315 watts. I was more concerned about how good of battery life I get. And as you can see there, 25 sits nicely on top. And I would use this with like really low ohm build RDAs, or like my Blazer sub ohm tank that goes up to like 120, 150 watts. And I'd run this thing all day long. I really had no complaints with it. The battery door, I noticed it does get kind of, you see a little bit of a gap right there over time, but it really wasn't a huge concern because it was so cheap and affordable, like 35 bucks. It was kind of like a beater mod, and I would only use it when I needed something for an all-day event, and it performed well. Once again, in power mode, it didn't necessarily do 315 watts, but it did exactly what I needed, which was around 120, 150 watts, and I could set the boost to hard, and this thing had 0 ramp-up time. And last up, I have to mention the Smoke Magma. Now, this device goes for around $64, which includes a sub-ohm tank, and they advertise it does 225 watts. It does probably around 175 or 180, but for the most part, most of the smoke devices, they all kind of perform the same. The difference are going to be the looks, but what really stuck out for me with this mod, of course, is the pistol grip style. And a lot of people didn't like that, but I will say this thing is one of the most comfortable devices to use. 28 millimeters looks perfect on top of here. Here's a 25. This button was perfect. Smoke did a really good job with the button. This little release button right here, that would release your batteries. Pop out this little cartridge, and you pop your dual 18650s in there, and I thought this was a genius idea. It's a nice tight fit. It doesn't move around. It just all around a really cool device. It just felt good in the hands. It performed well, but I think for the most part, this was all about comfort. And I could put a 28 millimeter on top of here, crank it up, and just give it a squeeze. This thing was super comfortable, and I think Smoke did a really good job. Smoke came out with a lot of mods, but out of all the mods that really stuck out, the Mag mod, I think stuck out the most. So those are going to be the devices that I recommend when you're looking for something regulated and something on a budget. Let's have a quick vape, and we'll wrap it up. Now, a lot of new vapors might be a little bit misunderstood. They may think that you have to spend a lot of money to get a good vape. I can tell you that you could spend well over under $100 and get the same vape that you would get off something that's $300 or $400. You have to shop around, you got to do your homework, but if you get the correct setup, it can vape just as good as a $300 device. And the ones I showed you are just a small handful of what's available out there. There are hundreds of mods on the market that I have never even tried yet that could be really good and really affordable. And with that said, I would appreciate if a lot of you guys in the comment section would let me know and let others know, what do you find to be really affordable regulated, under $100, under $75. So that way if someone comes check out the video, they can look in the comments section and they can see what everyone's talking about. But for the most part, in my opinion, those are the mods that I still continue to use. And reviewers get products all the time, and it's hard for a reviewer to constantly use something they enjoy. I really enjoy a certain mod. I can't always use it because I have to go on to the next mod. So it's devices that we use when we're not on camera are the ones that we usually really enjoy. So for the most part, those are the ones that always come off the shelf and get used. But that's it. Questions and comments, you know exactly what to do. Hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to everyone very, very soon. Make sure you guys build safe and vape on.